Hi guys, today we are going to be showing you how I took this top that I bought on clearance online to match my finals night interview outfit at Miss America, and I adjusted it to make it actually fit me. So first I wanted to bring in that V a little more. It was a little too deep for me, so I wanted to pinch it to see where I wanted it, and I'm going to go ahead and mark that with a safety pin. And oh, never mind, I clipped it first. But then afterwards I took it and I just marked it on one side because it was going to be the same on both sides. And then you see it poofed out, and I knew, well, I'm going to have to take care of that in a second. I'm trying to figure out the best way to do that, and for me it looked like I was gonna have to run a seam right down the middle, which would go with the pattern. As you can see, there are two seams on either side of the bust, and having a third one right down the middle wouldn't make much of a difference, especially with the pattern I'm going to be doing, which you'll see later on in the video. But this is just how I altered this and made it my own. So you can see I moved the clip over to one side and I marked the top of where I wanted to sew it, and I'm going to go ahead and pin up a few things on here. Now this is the inside of the dress. You can see the black tag on the left underneath my right wrist, and here I'm just pinning it together, and then I actually just sewed it by hand. And if you're looking for a video to learn how to sew by hand, you can check out a few of my other videos, especially the first one where I sew the fringe jacket, well, sorry, fringe shirt from Goodwill using a pair of jeans, which is one of my favorite ones to talk about. So this one right here, I'm just pinning it so it's straight, and I'm just going to hand sew just that little seam so the seams run together right up until the clip. And I just used black colored thread because it's not going to show through to the other side. And you can also run this through a sewing machine. I did after I hand sewed it just so it would stay in place a little better. And yeah, either one will work. You can actually do this all hand sewing, or you can do it through a machine. Most of this outfit, or not outfit, I should say, this top that I purchased on clearance ended up being sewn by hand, and you'll see that a little longer in the video. This top took a hot second to make, but I think it's pretty cool. It's definitely one of my favorites. So, if I finish pinning it eventually, maybe, you can see here that I just sewed that seam together right there. I had trouble with the camera this time. I don't know what my deal was. You can see it's all there together. It's kind of messy at the end, the thread's out, but I mean, obviously you can cut the thread at any point in time. When you flip it over, you can see that there it is. But now you have that little bunchy thing, and that's kind of what we saw from the front earlier, but now it's flipped to the other side. So we're gonna have to still sew that seam, but I'm gonna end up doing it from the back. And that's what I turned it over there for. And you can see I just pinned it and then just ran that as a straight stitch through my sewing machine. And that's really all I gotta do for that. You can leave it, you can cut it off. I left it, I didn't have reason to cut it off. But then I didn't really like the strap placement. So I wanted to move them over a little bit and almost poke those corners down, so that way it made it a little more flat when it was on me. So to do that, I flipped it over. You can see I clipped it at the top. I just barely folded over the top of it. And when I did that, it allowed me to kind of shape the top a little more. And I'm going to go ahead and hand sew this too. So once it's folded over, I'm just going to kind of sew through to make that a new top. So sewing along the top edge by hand. And then there's 2 layers to this. So you don't want to actually poke through to both sides of the satin to the front. You want to just poke it through to that back satin, that edge that was folded over. See, there's the front. And then here's the back. You just want to poke it through to that back satin, so that way you don't see the stitching on the front. So I went ahead and I was going to do that eventually. Oh, I guess I did this out of order. This is before I ended up actually sewing that. I actually sewed that straight stitch. You can see where that triangle pokes up a little bit from where I sewed in the black thread. I actually sewed the straight stitch probably about an inch into that triangle per se, but that was just to my liking, to my taste. When you do this on your own, I suggest doing it piece by piece. Obviously sew the middle and then put it on, see what you like, see, you can always add more stitches, you can take stitches out. It's usually easier to add more stitches than to take stitches out, though, I will say that. But I really did this all by feel. I kind of knew when I had it on about how much it needed to go in, and then when I laid it down flat, I was able to see what the fabric wanted to do, which is super important. When you add things to fabric that it doesn't really want to do, stretch or bend, you'll see weird lines and creases. But you can see the fabric is happy right there, and when it folds over on top and I move the straps a little bit, it looks a little more complete. And I had a matching thread, and so to find a matching thread, you can take it and line it up with the outfit and see it becomes a little bit visible there. So it matches better in person than on camera. So here I am sewing that all down to make sure everything is great and happy and flush to the back. Remember, you're sewing it to the back of the fabric and you're not poking through. You're just going to go through all of the side that is folded over and then just barely into that back layer. So this is double layered, and I believe there was a little bit of padding between the two of some kind of felt or some kind of fabric bonder. And I just kind of messed around with that, and it took me a hot second on both sides to sew both of them, but once I did, I really liked the shape and where it was. So you can see me here kind of tying that off, and then here it is. Once it's all moved, you can see the seam in the front is a little ajar, and if you pay attention at the beginning, I think it was a little ajar to begin with. So important thing when you're doing the straps, make sure they aren't twisted in any weird way and you keep them straight. These were just twisted on the mannequin. They were fine in general. So next I'm going to take these rhinestones that you sew on, and they matched my shoes that I had picked out perfectly. So I was really excited to find them. And they just have two sides to them. So I'm going to kind of show you how I sewed them on. And these had to be sewn on by hand. And what I did is I made a pattern of symmetry, so obviously the middle reflected on the middle. Didn't really have too much to reflect on. Then I had sewed one side, and I matched it to the other. I put all the big rhinestones on first, sewed one, and then put them all on the other side. So here you can see me doing that, and also listening to a lecture from med school. I was doing this over my winter break, where I actually had my exams moved up. So when I went to Miss America, I was supposed to have exams that week for medical school, and my medical school is amazing. I have nothing but great things to say about SIU School of Medicine, and they moved up my exams for me so I could take them before I went to Miss America, so I wouldn't have to worry about that there. And shout out to SIU, phenomenal institution. Holy cow, can't talk. But here we are sewing them by hand, and it does take a second to do these, and it takes a lot of patience. So when I sewed them, you'll see it closer in a second, I sewed the big rhinestones on, and then I also did some heatfix rhinestones, and those are these guys, and I'll go into these in a second. So I kind of outlined the ones that I had sewn in place and the heatfix ones, and that kind of sped up the process. So here is kind of a deeper look into that. Oh, I dropped it. That sounds like me. If I can get a hold of it. Trying to figure out the camera. It's a whole thing. All right, here we go. You can see there is a hole at the top and a hole at the bottom, and that is what we are going to be using to sew these onto our shirt. So here's our thread. I knotted at the bottom. If you're looking to learn how to knot a thread, you can check out my video I mentioned earlier with the pants. So I want the knot to kind of sit in the middle of that rhinestone because I don't want to see it. So here's where I'm going to put the rhinestone, kind of mapping it out to reflect on the other side. And I want to put that knot that's going to pull through in the middle of it. So I'm going to try and guess where that would be, and I'm going to put my thread out to where I believe I'm trying to keep the thread taut here so it doesn't bunch up and get all weird. I'm trying to put the knot or the thread on the other side where I think the hole will be. So now I'm going to take it and go through one of the holes on the rhinestone. Here we are, just like that. It's through. There it is. And see that it's covering the knot that I made earlier, so you can't see it, completely invisible. And now I'm going to go through the fabric. Yep, there we go. And out to the other side of where the other hole is going to be in the rhinestone. Now for this part, you can go through both layers if you want, or you can go through one layer. It doesn't matter as long as you go through some fabric, because this is the side people are going to see, and no one's going to be seeing the inside. So it doesn't quite matter. Sometimes for security, if it's a heavier thing, I'll try to go through both layers, but if it just makes more sense to go through one. I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's all your choice. And then I put it through the other side, and here we go. Kind of tighten it a little bit. And I'm going to keep it tight with my finger to make sure that it's where I want it to be. And then we are just going to go back into the fabric to kind of anchor it again. Pull it in there, make sure it's nice and tight, and that's going to keep it in place. And now we're going to knot it off. And to do that, you're going to go back into the fabric on the same side. Poke it in just a little bit, but enough that it'll hold the stitch. Make that loop, and then take the thread, your needle side and thread, you're going to put it through the hoop, and then that end you're going to keep holding on to make another loop. And then you're going to do that step again, so go through the hoop, catch your needle, and then pull back. And then one last time, go through the hoop, catch your needle, pull back. And then try and keep that taut right there at the entry point. Pull it again, and then that's good. You can actually cut that or hide it back. So now we're going to go on the hotfix ones, or the heatfix tools. So this is the heatfix tool. I got it from Amazon for $12. And they come with these different size caps or heads. You can kind of see what this says on there, 5mm or 20 SS. Those are the different sizes for the rhinestones. And how I do it is I actually just put it on there to see does it fit. And yeah, it looks like it fits. And now I'm trying to show you how it fits better. Don't mind my thumb. I seriously have beat up that thumb so many times, I don't even know how it's still attached. But yeah, there you go. That looks like a fit to me. Some people would say that's probably too small, but I mean, what happens is this little end heats up. It's all metal, so there's conductive stuff going on here, and it heats up, and then there is glue. You can kind of see it. That gray side, that is glue on the bottom of each rhinestone. So when you put a rhinestone on, and it is heated up by the heatfix tool, it melts the glue onto the object, and then the rhinestone stays. So that's what I'm doing here, and then probably about 10 seconds, 12 seconds, and then pop it off. It's all good. And then here you go. This is the finished project that I was wearing on stage. Well, hopefully we're wearing on stage for my Miss America final interview outfit. So thank you all for watching, and I'm excited to see you in my next video.